Hey everyone, it's Kevin Gilligan, and joining me is the Geeks OUT President, Nic Gitau.
Hello. Hi, Kevin.
Hello, Nic. We are here for a very special episode of the Geeks OUT Podcast.
Very special.
Very special. We have joining us today, all the way from Toronto. People may remember him from My So-Called Life. They may remember him from Rent. Currently, he holds our hearts on Star Trek Discovery. Please welcome Wilson Cruz.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Hi.
Thank you so much for being here in this virtual world with us.
I'm very happy to be here. I'm glad we finally worked it out.
Yeah.
Yes, we're big fans of you. And we're so happy to have you talk with us today. So
it's very sweet of you. I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Well,
here being your place in Toronto, virtually speaking. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm happy to be here with you, sharing some time.
I have to say though, this feels, perhaps after a year of a pandemic where my entire life is done virtually, this feels extra intimate, you guys. It's like I've invited you over to my place.
Yes. Can I use your restroom?
Absolutely.
It's just down the hall on the right. Yeah.
Well, we've got a good set of questions here. I think we're going to hit on a little something for the Star Trek nerds. If you're anything like me, the 1990s tender baby queer feelings, and I don't know. Should we dive right into it?
Yeah, I'm here for you. I'm going to answer all the questions.
Oh, free range. Okay.
I know we have some fan questions that we have. If we have time, we'll get to them at the end as well. So.
Okay.
Cool.
Great. Well. Let's kick it off. So we know that you were a fan of Star Trek, and your character now is having to do the work of both Dr. Beverly Crusher and Counselor Troy, especially this season. Which character do you stand more?
Oh, no, you're not doing that to me.
You said you'd answer anything.
We're not starting. Oh, I'm going to answer it. I'm just not going to answer it the way you want it answered.
Ooh, okay.
There is no way that I could ever choose between Gates and Marina. Never, ever. They have both been so inspiring to me and informative to me, and such great support to me personally and to the character of Culber. So I bring a little bit of both of them to my work. I was obsessed with Gates. I was obsessed with Dr. Crusher when I was watching the show, originally. But Marina was a character that I grew to love, and I really understood her vulnerability in a real way. So I will not be choosing between the two.
Have you had a chance to meet or speak with either of those actors?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I actually got to spend a good amount of time with Marina on the Star Trek cruise earlier this year.
Oh my God.
The very precarious Star Trek cruise, but we made it out alive. And Gates and I had like a almost a mental breakdown when I met her in Vegas that first year. And we've been on several panels together. So, and I get emails from her after she watches the episodes, telling me how much she loves it. So yeah, that's a dream come true.
Yeah. Super exciting.
So your character on Discovery has had quite an amazing journey from his controversial death in the first season, and then his amazing and very welcome return in season 2, to his period of healing from the trauma that he endured, and now is stepping up and is being both the heart and the healer, both physically and emotionally on the ship in this current season. And I know you can't spoil too much about what's still to come. But where would you like to see your character go? Like now that we're in this previously unexplored future.
What can I say? I mean, I will say that we're going to see more of this doctor/counselor scenario. I think given Culber's history and his experience and his lived experience, I think due to all of that, he is somebody that everyone trusts and feels like he's earned their trust. They've witnessed his journey, and so they know they can go to him because he can relate in so many ways. So I think we're going to see more of that, a growth, an expansion of his willingness to serve not just the physical body, but the mental issues as well.
Nice.
That's exciting.
Yeah, no, it is for me. And it's also really great in terms as an actor, right? Like it affords me the opportunity to work with everybody on the ship at some point or another. And we really do see how he is this connective tissue. He is this connective character for all of the crew.
Yeah. Well, speaking of how characters connect, so there haven't been many long-term couples on Star Trek. Being in space, you never know what's going to happen next week.
Sure.
So
dangerous airlocks.
Always the threat of an airlock. But how important was it for you to show Hugh and Paul's intimate and tender moments as a couple? And do you have any? I mean, obviously that stuff's being written, and then you're presented with the script. But do you have any influence on how that stuff gets developed over time?
I mean, we have a very cooperative and collaborative relationship with the writers and producers, and I for one am always bouncing ideas off of Michelle and Alex, and some things have been generated from those conversations. In terms of the affection that Anthony and I show as characters, it was really important for me that they have a physical love language as well, mainly because I know how important that is for us as queer people to be able to see that in the future, there is no second thought or even a hesitation of kissing my partner goodbye or hello or thank you or good night. That this is our life, and just like anybody, I want to show affection and love to my partner at all times when appropriate, right? So, clearly we're not going to be making out on the bridge, but when we are not in our professional work environment and we're at home or having a personal conversation alone, I think it's important that we get a sense that this relationship is more than just occupational, that these are two people who share life together and have real affection for each other. And so, I say this all the time, and it's true. I kiss Anthony I think I try to kiss Anthony in every scene. And then, I just leave it up to the editors if they use it or not. Sometimes they use them, sometimes they don't. Sometimes it's written in, and sometimes I'm like, well, I think I would kiss him here. And they would be like, well, go for it. Or not so much, So, so I think it's important. The physical display of affection is important. Yeah,
it's so normalizing and so important. And
they've been in a long term relationship. So these people are very familiar and comfortable with each other.
Yeah, wonderful.
And they've been through a lot. So
yeah, you can do that.
At this point, I want them to kiss all the time. So
yeah,
they've earned it.
Yeah.
Do you think actually, because that makes me think, in the context of the character relationship, obviously you're sharing a lot, but between both you and Anthony having been in Rent, is that like, did that provide like a good ground, or like were there stories there that you're like, okay, let's bond?
I think that, there's not a lot of time when you work on television to develop these characters or relationships, right? So you have to kind of come in and use what you got, right? And create it in the moment. And lucky for Anthony and I, we had an entire friendship that spanned decades before this, that we could base our characters' relationship on. So we could mine the love, the actual authentic love and appreciation and respect that we have for each other. We can mine that to build this fictional relationship. And we have. It's easy. It makes life so much easier when you're working with someone that you actually love.
Yeah. Right. Speaking of relationships, your scenes with Michelle Yeoh in the episodes from the last couple of weeks are amazing.
Thank you.
There's just such a wonderful back and forth with her character, and both of you are two of my favorite characters on the show. Would you talk about what went into filming those scenes?
I'm going to be very, very honest with you right now. Not that I haven't been, but I'm going to be very vulnerable with you is what I should say.
Yeah.
Those scenes were really difficult for me. Not because I didn't enjoy working with Michelle in any way, because she was incredibly generous, but I felt that Culber is an incredibly vulnerable and intuitive person. And so when he comes into contact with anybody, as a patient, which is what Giorgio was, he, I think, takes the temperature of that person and understands in a very profound way how best to communicate with that person. And Michelle and I didn't have a lot of interaction with each other, and I don't think that Dr. Culber had a lot of interaction with Giorgio. And what he did know was that she was from the Terran universe, and he also understood that there was a kind of language that she would understand. And I think he needed to show her that he was strong enough to take care of her. He needed to gain her respect. And the only way to do that, I thought, was to go toe to toe with her. And it wasn't necessarily the way the scenes were written. And I, in looking back at the performance, there was a moment when I first saw it where I thought, maybe that wasn't the right way to go. But I really feel strongly about the fact that when we're talking about love languages, how we show love, I think Dr. Culber understood that the only way that Terrans understood love, if there is any concept of that, was through strength. And so the assertiveness, the aggressiveness that I'm showing through Culber in those scenes is really him showing her love in a way that she could understand it and receive it and feel like he was on her side.
No, I mean that.
So, you know what I mean? Although conveying that was really hard. Manifesting that in a way was really difficult for me. There, I said it. So what's funny is that we were doing that first scene in the opening of that episode, and I just kept wanting to do it. over and over because I didn't think I got it. I didn't think I just wanted to keep doing it. I wanted to keep trying it. At one point, at the very end, Michelle was like, "You're done. You've done it beautifully a million times. We have to move on." And I love that Michelle was the one who was like, "Dude, you're killing yourself and me, so we have to keep it moving." And I enjoy that about working with her because I believed her. I have so much love and trust for her that when she was like, "You did it. This is it. You good." I believed her. So I was like, "Okay, I'm good. Moving on."
It's a great dynamic.
Well, I mean, we with those episodes, we got to finally see your Terran Empire version of your character.
Yeah.
What was it like to play the mirror Dr. Culber? With new costume, new attitude, some fight choreo.
Yeah. Well, I was very excited about it because they had a mocked up version of that costume back in season 1 because there was a moment where we thought that Culber would appear in the mirror universe before he got killed. But he didn't. So, and that would have, anyway. So I don't want to get overcomplicated. So for me, it was really exciting to finally be able to put on that costume because I thought it was so beautifully rendered when I saw it. So I was excited about that. I wish he would have said more or anything. That would have been good. So, for me, it was about, again, as an actor, finding a way to physicalize who I thought he was. And because I didn't say anything, I had this, I imagined him as this kind of mute brute. He was just kind of like dumb and mean and a man of few words, but was like someone who clearly enjoyed the meds that he was privy to as a doctor, and was a bit of a sadist, and a sex addict is how I thought of him. He was just somebody who was always about gratification, whether it be fast or prolonged. But he was all about enjoying himself.
Do you? I don't know if it was.
I wish I would have gotten to like explore him a bit more, but in my head, that's who I was.
Same. Was there any discussion about if the mirror Stamets and Culber were together, or?
Oh, we know that they were because in season 2, Georgiou references the fact that they are together and with her,
right,
in that universe. Okay. Just queer and all the colors, boo-boo, all the colors.
This is a universe that I'd be happy to live in.
I think everybody would be happy in terms of that, yes.
So if we're talking about a distant future where everything is possible and queer in space, I kind of want to take it back a little bit and talk about Wilson of the past. Talk about what's going life. So one thing for me, as I think of the group, I'm probably like the big My So-Called Life stan, because I was the queer little brown kid who was like hanging out with all the cool kids with the drama and like on the sidelines. But one of the things that I feel now is like I'll go back and I'll rewatch the show, and one of the beauties of that show is I still feel very tender and connected to that teenage drama. But as I get older, I'm like, oh man, but the parents, they're just like, they're really going through it. And as I get older,
I'm hearing that a lot. I'm hearing people talk about how they undervalued those parents
Yeah.
when they originally watched the show. And whereas we, as the kids on the show,
Yeah.
really valued them. Like I used to go to the
Yeah.
set just to watch them work on days I didn't work because I wanted to learn from them.
Yeah.
And they were, and you know, Beth and Tom are still a big part of my life. I just spoke to them over the holidays too.
Oh.
So you know, we're all very close. So
Yeah.
I really love that people are appreciating those characters now in
Yeah.
hindsight.
Yeah, that was going to be a part of my question is, were there characters that outside of, you know, the Ricky character and his storyline, were there characters that you identified with? And it sounds like you were able to.
Oh, I mean, I identified a lot with Brian Krakow too. And, you know, that's why I loved those scenes so much.
Yeah.
Because there was, you know, Wilson saw a little of Brian in him, in me. Why am I speaking myself in third person? But yeah, you know, and I could relate to you know, a teenage girl, you know, having a crush on the cutest boy in school, you know. So I related to a lot. I mean, those people, those characters, those actors, that project, that it's an ethereal moment, memory for me.
Yeah.
I hold it in such high regard.
Yeah. And it's so great now. And, you know, sort of what I'm wondering is with your work on Star Trek and, you know, now we have Blue Del Barro and Ian Alexander playing non-binary and trans characters on Star Trek. Do you ever find yourself as someone who is charting such new territory at the time of My So-Called Life, do you find yourself in a mentorship role now? Are you like, what other conversations?
I mean, I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so. I mean, Anthony and I have made it very clear to both of them that we are resources for them here in Toronto. Because, you know, they're both away from home and they're both very young. And they're also both using their platforms to advance the knowledge and understanding of queer people, specifically non-binary and trans people. And so we understand the pressures of not only just doing the work that you are required to do as an actor on this show, which isn't easy, but also to speak to the issues that you're championing. We understand how that works and how taxing that can be to you personally. And so, you know, I think of them as my kids here on set. So I have an eye on them at all times. I'll just say that.
Yeah.
And that's just my nature. But I'm like that with most young people on a set because I remember what that was like. But these two are really special.
Yeah.
They're very special to me, to both of us.
Oh, that's great. So another project that you've been involved in, you served as the executive producer on the docuseries Visible Out on television, which Kevin, I think we actually watched it together.
We did.
Yeah, that was great.
We had a little quarantine pod party in Fire Island.
Yeah.
Fire Island, which is like the gayest possible way to watch it.
I love that you watched it on Fire Island. You know, that's a very special place for me. It's a magical place to me.
Oh yeah. Yeah, we're like, we beach later. We need to watch this together.
Right, yeah.
But have you considered, I mean, one, are there going to be any continuations on that series, or are you considering your work as an executive producer in other similar, I guess, with other similar properties or projects?
I'm not going to say that there couldn't be more of Visible at some point. There isn't anything right now. I will say that. I have some ideas about what else we could do, and maybe after this this all opens up again, I'll start talking about it. But I enjoy producing. I enjoy producing in general. I don't have to worry about the afro on my head right now when I'm producing, which, by the way, clearly I need a haircut.
We
so
all
bad.
need haircuts.
But I want to make sure that when I'm producing anything, that it's something that I feel compelled to bring to people's attention. I want it to be to speak to to the communities that I represent, right? So I want to make sure that we're telling our history, that we're not, that we're making visible those who have been invisible for too long, in the telling of our history. And I don't necessarily want to stay within the nonfiction world too. I'm developing fiction, content. So, but in that same vein, I'm always thinking of what I want to put out in the world in terms of what I'm passionate about. And my entire career has been about opening up the doors for marginalized people in this industry. So the stuff that I'm developing is going to look like the world, and it's going to continue to press that boundary about who's allowed through the door and who gets to tell their story, and whose stories we elevate. This weekend, I was dealing with, a public figure who had been idolized and glamorized after they committed murder. And I wanted to refocus the attention on the victim, who was a young queer man of color named Angel Melendez, who I had the pleasure, the honor of playing in Party Monster. And I wanted to make sure that in the death of his murderer, we shed a light on him and his story and the life that was snuffed out. And to me, that was far more important than the story we had been telling about those club kids.
Yeah. Well, that's a really exciting place for you to be in. And did you imagine when you were starting early in your career that these were the kinds of things that would even be a possibility?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did.
Great.
I believed it was possible. I didn't think it was going to come easily. I knew it was going to take sacrifice on our parts and on my part, that I needed to get some skin in the game, to put some skin in the game, meaning to put myself out there to clear the path for those who came after me. And so that meant speaking out and being obnoxious and joining the staff at GLAAD and having conversations with studio executives and network executives about who's been allowed to tell their stories and how they needed to change it. I was, along with staff at GLAAD, Nick Adams and Rich Ferraro and Sarah Kate Ellis, really fought for years to have more trans and non-binary representation on television. And in the last few years, we have started to see the results of those conversations. And people don't really know that it had been a decade in the making to get these networks comfortable enough with the conversation about trans and non-binary people that wasn't about violence.
Right. Yeah.
So I believed it was possible, but I also believed that I also understood what Martin Luther King said, which is that change does not come in on the wheels of inevitability. It happens through hard work, and that we have to bend our backs and do that work. And I was committed to doing it. I still am. I think, we still have a lot of work to do.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for being part of those conversations.
People cleared the path for me, right? People cleared the path for me. For my ability to be on My So-Called Life didn't just happen. I think about Alan Poole, who was a producer on My So-Called Life, who was a member of the National Board of GLAAD before I was on My So-Called Life, who had worked through that organization to clear the path for me. So my job was to clear the path for those who were coming after me. And I knew that those people were trans people, and they were trans people of color.
Yeah.
And we needed to start doing and laying the work down for that.
That actually ties into one of our fan questions from Davin. I hope I'm not butchering any names. Davin Applewhite. In their question is, where do you think queer television media will be in the next 10 years? Considering the past of how long it's taken us to get to this point, where do you think it will be in the next 10?
I mean, I can tell you where I hope it will be. I hope that we will have made our way past this era where studio films are completely absent of queer people, especially queer people of color. When you look at the major studio films, the films in which these studios are putting the bulk of their money and resources and marketing efforts, we are nowhere to be found. So I hope that within the next 10 years, maybe, and hopefully earlier than that, these studios have their come to Jesus moment and understand that they're not only limiting their art, but they're limiting the potential they have to make money. You know, we are a money spending, movie going population community. You know, we love nothing more than to go to the movies. So you need to start speaking to us, or as you can see, we aren't going to show up. So anyway, that's what I hope. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of studio films. I think in terms of television, TV has done a much better job. I like the trajectory we're on. I don't want us to stop. That doesn't mean that, we finished the work. But when you look at the ways that shows like Star Trek and Pose, or Veneno on HBO Max, these are compelling shows about the human experience, not just about being queer. It's about life, our lives, and our lives are just as interesting and important as those white, cis, straight lives that we've been seeing for decades. Yeah. I think we've tapped out on those stories.
I have to say on the FlameCon side, so Geeks Out, we're a nonprofit, national nonprofit. In a normal non-pandemic year, we attend comic and pop culture conventions across the country. We also produce our own called FlameCon based in New York. But again, pandemic asterisks. But we see that all the time, that, just how passionate, people from marginalized communities are, not just queer people, people of color, people with disabilities. Like, they were so hungry for these stories. And to me, it is mind-boggling that kind of passion isn't like trickling upwards, and that people who are in the driver's seat making these decisions aren't saying, like, people, like, have you seen a bunch of nerds at the convention? They will spend their money.
Right.
Like, they will break their allowance, because it's...
I think they're hearing it. I think they're seeing it. I just don't see them moving on it fast enough. Mm. But I binged Bridgerton over the weekend.
Yep, same.
And I was like, where have these stories been? Right? Yeah. Like, we're so busy. I guess I feel like the entertainment industry was so busy, trying to recreate history and calling it truth when it wasn't.
Ooh, yeah.
That they forgot that they could actually use their imaginations and actually recreate history so that it served us, right? And allowed us all to be seen. That which is happening now, like through shows like Bridgerton, like that we wasted a lot of time. We could have been doing that for a lot longer. But instead we chose to tell the same stories over and over again
Yeah.
instead of being the artist, the creative artist that we supposedly are.
Yeah. Kevin, before I let you hop in with your closing nerdy question, I've got one more fan question. I'm actually going to riff on this one a little bit. So the question is about, it's in my so-called life-based question, which is why I'm going to riff, about the dance to What is Love by Hathaway. So my question is, who do you think has better dance moves, Ricky or Angel in Rent? Because those are some pretty sweet dance moves. They're like, what is love?
True. I do think that, Angel, a bucket drum beating drag queen, is always going to be a better dancer than a high school queer boy, who someday may have, measured up to Angel, but he was on his way. But Angel is a special being, I always thought of her as a superhero to my mind, like something larger than life.
Yeah.
Sure.
Love to hear it. We love
superhuman.
Yeah. Which actually, Kevin, I'm going to toss it over to you because I think that's a good little bridge to your question.
Yeah. And also that fan question was from Sergio Zenteno. So just to make sure.
I'm glad that Sergio and I were on the same page about like that scene.
That dance in My So-Called Life was choreographed, by the way, by Mickey Rooney's son, Michael Rooney, who's still a very respected choreographer working today.
Wow.
That one of his first gigs.
Huh.
Yeah.
The more part just went over my head. So talking about what you're watching, we always like to find out what people are getting down and nerdy with. So what are you consuming in pop culture, whether that be what movies, TV, books, comics, video games? What are you consuming right now?
Well, we just heard a Bridgerton binge, which
I did. I binged it yesterday. I have 2 episodes left.
Okay.
That's how much of it yesterday I watched. It's addictive. So I watched that. Veneno was one of my 2020 highlights. I'm recommending it to everyone I can. So I watched that. I binged that. I watched so much. Orthodox, I loved. Normal People, I loved. What was the one? Gentefied, I loved on Netflix.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm reading A Promised Land by Barack Obama. Maybe you've heard of him. I am rereading The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown, because there's a lot of Brene Brown in Dr. Culver. Just so you know that.
My therapist would be so happy to hear that.
Yeah, there's a lot of strong back, soft front, wild heart. Brene, that's Dr. Culver. What else? Christmas music is getting me through. Leslie Odom Jr.'s album, Shoshana Bean's album, Stevie Mackie's album got me through the holidays and my birthday. What else? I just read everything. I'm a big reader. I don't know what else to tell you. Yeah. I'm not a big gamer, so I don't have that to report.
That's okay. I'm
not that kind of geek.
I'm a basic gamer. It's all Mario. That's all.
Yeah.
That's all I play.
And I mean,
I never got into it. Once I got, through my Sega fantasy or whatever, then I was done. What was that? 20 years ago?
It's because the controller's got too many buttons. I'm the same way. I'm like, once the
controller's
like 8 buttons, I'm like, I'm out, guys. I can't.
I'm good with just bouncing the cursor back and forth, which is the first game.
I will say I have started Veneno, and it's just so good.
I mean, second episode 2 of Veneno. Have you seen Veneno? The second episode?
No, but I got 2 solid recommendations. So
it's probably up like top 5 episodes of TV I've ever watched.
Wow.
There's a lot of heart in it, and a lot of, oh man, yeah. It's
Heartbreaking.
It's
Be
well,
ready.
now that I'm done with Bridgerton, I've got room in my binge schedule. So
yeah, it's a Spanish language program, but it's dealing with
Based on a true story.
right.
Yeah.
love that.
Real person.
It's
An icon in Spain. And we'll talk about it after you see it. I don't want to spoil it for you.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of our conversation, and I'm so sorry to let you go, but you've got more important things. Us letting you go, we're giving you back to Star Trek. We gotta keep you. Yeah, you've got important things.
Yes.
But yeah, thank you so much for
I appreciate you guys. Thank you. I'm so grateful that you guys were patient. I'm sorry about the wait.
No, it's how things are. Schedules are crazy, especially for actors, and we're just grateful to have you part of a conversation with us. So,
It's my pleasure. We'll do it again someday.
And yeah, I'm gonna say this out loud, shameless. Again, when our convention season and life returns back to us, I know that everyone, all of those LGBTQ plus fans, would love to see you at FlameCon.
I'm looking forward to going back to the conventions. I truly am. I miss them.
Yeah, I know. Oh,
yeah.
So real.
Something to hold on to for 2021.
Yes. Yes.
Truly.
Well, that is it for this week's episode, this special edition of the Geeks Out podcast. You can find out more about Geeks Out by going to our website, geeksout.org. And you can reach us on all the socials at Geeks Out. You can find me on the social medias at Gilligan_McJew. Nic, if you want to share what socials people
as usual, you can find me at Coco Deveau, COCODEVAUX, but also at Geeks Out, at FlameCon. You'll find one of us behind that keyboard. And Wilson, you are all over the internet.
I'm WCruz73 everywhere.
Wonderful.
Excellent.
Well, again, thank you for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, and until next time, we're out.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Wilson.
Thank you. Where am I?